This short video answers 4 questions about the potential value of integrated business planning to global manufacturers. Its purpose is to make executives aware of key issues affecting this value. Further details about its contents can be found in separate videos. As complexity increases, the value of integrated business planning often falls short of expectations. And the same is true of other integration approaches and methods. This value shortfall occurs because complexity exposes critical capability gaps that undermine the maturity of these integrated processes. These capability gaps represent key differences between what I call tactical and strategic IBP. Strategic IBP is a process for planning, managing, and governing outcomes. Its purpose is to align and optimize outcomes from strategic, financial, operational, and commercial perspectives. One challenge complicates the ability to evaluate the maturity of IBP processes. There is no universally accepted maturity model that brings these different views together for both planning and performance management. The one on the left side of the screen uses 2 dimensions to accomplish this. This maturity model provides the means to graphically illustrate the difference between strategic and tactical IBP, along with the complexity-driven capability gaps that separate them. 2 things are important to note. First, strategic IBP is required to execute most strategies pursued by global manufacturers. Second, few global manufacturers have gotten beyond tactical maturity levels, primarily because most software providers don't support it. What's not always realized is that technology analysts like Gartner continue to evaluate software solutions from functional perspectives, one for S&OP and another for finance. They aren't evaluating process maturity. What this means is that selecting leaders in each category doesn't mean that solutions can support strategic IBP. In fact, most have critical capability gaps that prevent them from doing so. What's becoming clear is that these complexity-driven capability gaps are not always addressed by either software category. In other words, they're falling between the cracks of solution providers. From an executive's perspective, 4 such complexity gaps are essential to understand. While there are others, these are the most important ones that separate strategic and tactical IBP. What also needs to be appreciated is how the first 4 gaps undermine the ability to promote the right behaviors and culture. Details of these capabilities are provided in separate videos. They explain the central role played by prescriptive analytics in supporting them. What's important to understand here is that prescriptive analytics is a capability that is going largely unnoticed by both S&OP and financial software companies. As such, it represents a key risk in any IBP strategy. Evidence of these gaps can be found in the results of strategic, financial, and operational research studies. The challenges shown on the screen dominate the results of such studies. They persist despite significant technology investments. One reason is that they are highly interconnected in global manufacturers. Cashflow forecasting and scenario planning provide classic examples of this. What's not always realized is that the models required for supply chain planning are the same ones that are required for cash flow, foreign currency exposure, and working capital forecasting. Most financial and operational applications don't support them, either on their own or together as part of a process. One other challenge worth highlighting is that of functional silos. Improved strategy execution is a common claim of those providing integrated solutions. However, many lack capabilities to address functional silos, and not just data silos. This is important because functional silos remain one of the primary barriers to executing virtually every strategy that global manufacturers pursue, as illustrated by the research result on the screen. The net result being that silos continue to erode value. Evidence of this value erosion can be found in the results of research studies, like those shown on the screen. One thing is common to the value erosion depicted by these research results, that being an inability to plan, manage, and govern outcomes, thereby leading to complexity-driven costs, an amount that can reach 5% of sales, and also a metric that provides insight into the value of strategic IBP. One point worth highlighting is that cash flow forecasting is actually a leading indicator of IBP effectiveness. When it isn't working well, It's symptomatic of complexity-driven capability gaps that are lurking below the surface. In such situations, manufacturers are more likely to experience the challenges and value erosion that we just discussed. And foreign currency exposure forecasting can also be viewed in the same way. What's important to understand is that there is a lot of hype about IBP and other integrated methods and solutions, much of it being driven by software companies. Many claim to provide fully integrated solutions that drive strategy. However, the reality is that most continue to provide immature and tactically based solutions, so the phrase caveat emptor has never been more appropriate. The difference in value between strategic and tactical IBP can be significant. In the example shown on the screen, this difference is caused by the complexity gaps that we discussed. Therefore, understanding these differences is critical, not just for the value realized, but for the time to realize the value and cost to implement. Without understanding key capabilities at the outset, manufacturers can head down a path that is unnecessarily complex, resulting in higher implementation costs and longer time to value. The key takeaways from this video are provided on the screen. What's important to highlight is the need for executives to make a deliberate choice between strategic and tactical IBP, and making this choice starts with education that helps them do so. Thank you for watching this video. For further details about its contents, please feel free to use the contact information shown on the screen.